The first sound I heard wasn't a wave or a creaking hull. It was a knock. 3 slow taps, precise and patient, coming from inside the cargo hold beneath my boots. That was wrong for 100 reasons. The Silver Wake was 3 days out from Karachi, cutting through open water with nothing but black sea and darker sky around us. All containers had been sealed, logged, and welded shut before departure. No crew worked below deck after midnight. And no one ever knocked from inside a locked steel box. I stood alone on the night watch, the deck lights humming overhead, my breath fogging faintly in the cold air. The radio on my belt crackled with static, then went quiet again. The sea slapped the hull in a slow, tired rhythm, like it was breathing. 3 knocks came again, closer this time. I leaned over the railing, staring down at the stacked containers. Red, blue, gray, each one a silent coffin bolted to the ship. The sound came from somewhere deep in the maze below, echoing up through metal ribs. "Hello," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. Silence answered. Not even the sea moved. I told myself it was thermal expansion, metal cooling. Old ships made noises all the time. That's what the captain said during training, smiling like he knew a joke I didn't. Then a whisper slid up through the grating beneath my feet. Not loud, not urgent, just a breath of sound, shaped like words. "Guard." My flashlight flickered. Behind me, somewhere on the empty deck, something began to walk. By the time the second knock came, I already hated the sound of the ocean. It followed me everywhere on the Silver Wake. Not the roar you hear in movies, not the violent crash of waves against rock, but a low, patient presence. A constant pressure. As if the sea wasn't moving at all, but waiting. I told myself that was normal. Everything strange, I learned quickly, could be explained if you tried hard enough. The night after the first knocking, I walked my route with my flashlight clenched too tight. Beams slicing across steel walls scarred by decades of rust. My boots rang hollow on the deck. Every step echoed longer than it should have, stretching behind me like the ship was memorizing my pace. I kept expecting someone to step out of the shadows. A crew member, a prank, anything human. No one did. The containers loomed on both sides of the deck, stacked 3-4 stories high, locked and sealed like a city of metal tombs. Each one carried stenciled numbers and faded warnings. I tried not to read them. Reading made them feel personal. The radio on my belt stayed quiet. Too quiet. At 1:17, my logbook page trembled as the ship vibrated. Not a wave, not engine trouble. Something deeper. A shudder that traveled up through the soles of my feet and settled behind my eyes. I stopped walking. The sound came again. Not knocking this time. Scraping. Slow. Careful. Like a fingernail dragged across steel from the inside. I swept the light downward, heart climbing into my throat. Hold C sat at the far end of the deck, its heavy door painted over so many times the hinges looked fused in place. A warning placard hung crooked beside it, the letters nearly erased. Authorized personnel only. I wasn't authorized. I stood there anyway, listening. The scraping stopped. Then a voice spoke from behind the door. Not loud, not desperate, curious. "Is it night already?" The words slid straight through me. No echo, no distortion, perfectly clear. I staggered back, nearly tripping over my own feet. "No," I said automatically. "There's no one in there." Silence answered. I laughed. Too fast, too sharp, and scrubbed a hand over my face. Stress. Sleep deprivation. The captain had warned me about long nights and bad dreams. Still, I wrote it down. 1:22. Auditory hallucination? Voice from Hold C male. Calm. The pen shook so badly I tore the paper. The next day no one mentioned it. The crew ate in silence, eyes down, hands moving with mechanical precision. When I sat at the table, conversation died completely. One man stood and left without touching his food. I caught Ruiz watching me from across the mess hall. Her expression wasn't fear. It was assessment. That evening, she cornered me near the stairwell leading below deck. "You heard it, didn't you?" she asked. I opened my mouth to deny it. Nothing came out. Ruiz nodded once, like she'd expected that answer all along. "Don't answer it again," she said. "It learns faster when you do." "What learns?" I asked. She leaned closer, her voice barely louder than the engines. "The thing we're carrying." Before I could ask more, she stepped back. The moment passed. Crew voices returned. Someone laughed too loudly. That night, the ship felt tighter. Corridors narrowed when I walked them. Doors took longer to open, as if resisting. My reflection in the darkened glass of the bridge window didn't move when I did. Not at first. At 2:03, my radio crackled. I grabbed it instantly. "This is Night Watch," I said. "Who's on?" Static hissed. Then a whisper slid through the noise. "Why won't you come closer?" The voice was mine. I dropped the radio. From below deck something knocked once. Hard. And I knew, deep in my gut beyond reason, that the job hadn't hired me to guard the ship. It had hired me to listen. The nights stretched endlessly after that. Every step I took on the deck felt measured against something unseen, a silent audience pressing in, waiting for me to slip to respond. Hold C became the epicenter of every unsettling moment. The knocking returned, erratic now, pounding like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. Each tap seemed to echo the rhythm of my own pulse, faster, slower, impossible to distinguish from my racing thoughts. The container wasn't just a box. It was a presence, aware of me, aware of my fear. The whispers began seeping through the ship's steel bones. At first, they were background static, soft murmurs almost imagined. But slowly, they sharpened into fragments I recognized. Words I could not ignore. "You are here alone. Do not sleep. Listen." They were in my head and in the corridors, bleeding through walls, doors, the very air of the ship. I tried talking back, testing them once or twice. "Who's there?" The answer was always calm, almost intimate. "We are the cargo." Crew members began whispering in corners, eyes darting like trapped animals. Ruiz told me of the ship's history, but only in pieces. Decades ago, the Silver Wake was another vessel entirely, carrying unmanifested goods, mysterious crates that no port would touch. Crew members vanished, some in storms, some in calm seas. Official logs called it an accident. The unofficial tales said otherwise. They said the ship carried a presence, a thing that listened and remembered every fear, every secret. Objects moved without explanation. Wrenches left on crates ended up in my locker. A sealed door stood ajar, the hinges intact, no one near it. Footsteps echoed behind me with no owner. My reflection sometimes lagged behind, a half-second delay that made me flinch. Ruiz warned me not to engage with it. Every voice you give it, every fear you whisper, it learns faster. And once it knows you. That night, I dreamt the hold was endless. Endless containers, each filled with faces pressing to the steel, mouths opening in silent screams. I woke drenched in sweat, the smell of damp metal filling my lungs. The shuddering became more physical. The engines thrummed unevenly, the deck groaned under no weight, doors shivered as if breathing. And in the silence between the noises, whispers became clear. Names I recognized. My own voice echoing in ways that didn't belong to me. By the 10th night, I was no longer certain of reality. The crew avoided me completely. I started marking every small change in the ship, every anomaly, every whisper. The journal filled with impossible accounts. Shadows moving against the light, containers seeming to breathe, the ship stretching and folding in impossible angles. Time itself felt unreliable. Minutes stretched to hours, hours collapsed into seconds. Then, on the 12th night, Hold C began knocking back. Harder. Faster. With intent. I felt the presence in the corridors, in the railings, in the air pressing against my chest. My own thoughts whispered back to me in voices not my own. Ruiz grabbed me just as I bent to listen closer. Her face was pale, eyes wide. "It's marked you," she said. "Once it does that, it doesn't let go." I wanted to argue, to step back, to flee, but every direction led me closer to the hold. And I knew, in that slow, undeniable certainty that had grown with every night, that I could not avoid it. The cargo was patient, and I was already part of its listening. The knocking became a roar. Hold C no longer tapped politely. It pounded, each strike reverberating through the deck, rattling containers, shaking the railings, vibrating in my bones. The air grew thick, heavy with pressure, as if the ship itself had taken a breath and held it. I ran, every step uncertain. Corridors stretched beyond memory. Walls bending impossibly. Doors I had passed a dozen times before now led somewhere new, twisting like they had a mind of their own. Shadows followed me, moving faster than my own pace. Whispers became screams. Voices I recognized. Faces I loved. My own voice speaking things I hadn't thought yet. Captain Hale appeared from the mess hall, eyes wide, hands trembling. "We were paid to move it," he shouted over the cacophony. "No port would take it. No crew would keep it. What is it?" I yelled, my own words swallowed by the ship's groaning. Hale's gaze was hollow. Too many people listened. The container doors twisted and bulged. Bolts shattered. The hold itself seemed to stretch toward me. Time distorted. Minutes became hours, then collapsed. The world narrowed to the hold, and the hold widened beyond comprehension. I caught sight of Ruiz at the far end of the deck, screaming something I couldn't hear, moving impossibly slow as the ship warped. Her eyes met mine. "You're the anchor," she shouted. "It's tied to you now." The container's metal split with a scream of steel. I fell to my knees as a void opened inside. Not darkness, not light, but space itself echoing, filled with faces pressed together, mouths opening and closing in perfect unison. They spoke with my voice. "Stay." I felt my thoughts unraveling, memories leaking away. Every corner of the ship faded into infinite echoes. The knocking, the whispers, the groans, they were all inside me now. Inside the ship. Inside everything. I wanted to scream, to run, to resist. My body moved forward anyway, compelled, drawn into the void. I tried to remember who I was. The void answered with all I ever feared and all I ever knew. And then silence. They found the silver wake a week later, drifting silently in the gray wash of the open sea. No crew. No logs. Hold C sealed again, welded from the outside. Port authorities couldn't explain the vessel's condition or its empty decks. They called it abandonment. I called it survival. I was the only one aboard, gaunt, shaking, silent. They said I was dehydrated, exhausted, traumatized. When they asked what happened, I told them fragments. The knocking, the whispers, the container, the void. They listened politely and then filed it away under unconfirmed reports, leaving me with the weight of knowing. Back on land, the world felt unbearably loud. Every engine hum, every creaking floorboard, every cough or laugh made my nerves tighten. Sleep became a battleground. Dreams brought the hold to life again. Endless metal, faces pressed against walls, whispers of my own voice calling me back. I work nights now in a different port, on a different ship. The ocean still hums its steady, deceptive rhythm. Every night, when the engines settle into that low, constant thrum, I hear it. 3 slow taps. From somewhere inside me. And I know, as I always knew, that listening never ends. Do not take this job.